So what is going on, everybody? Fernando Silva here with another video, and in today's video what I wanted to do was actually pay homage to my current Apple ecosystem setup. So we're going to talk about every single Apple item that I use, and we're going to talk about them from most used to least used. Then we're going to talk about what I use each item for, or each product for. We're going to talk about the overall cost of this ecosystem, and then finally, how to save you guys a few bucks directly from the Apple Store if you guys haven't seen some of my previous videos yet. But without further ado, let's get right into this video, and you guys probably have an idea of what my most important / most used Apple item is. But let's get into it. So to get started with this video and talk about my most used item and my most used product, it has to be the M1 12.9-inch iPad Pro from 2021. So I opted to go with the baseline version of the M1 iPad Pro, so it has 128 gigs of storage, 8 gigs of RAM. It does not have cellular because I figured, we're at home, I work remote, I'm on Wi-Fi 24/7, and in those small instances where I do need maybe some data, I could just tether / hotspot my phone whenever I'm out and about. But even then, all the situations that I'm in, Wi-Fi is there 99.9% of the time, so that's why I opted not to pay the extra $200 for 5G on the M1 iPad Pro. But that is my absolute workhorse, right? In retail, it does sell for about $1,100, so this is not the cheapest iPad. It's actually the most expensive iPad that you can get, but for what I use it for and for how often I used it, for me it was an absolute no-brainer. Yes, you can argue that maybe the MacBook Air is a better buy for most people, which I 100% agree, but again, the iPad Pro versatility, how fun it is to use, how the form factor of it, all of those things I take into account because I'm always more excited to use my iPad Pro than I am my MacBook Air. But that has to be by far my most used product, which is sitting always right here, right next to me. And some of the main things that I use it for are everything, right? My spectrum with the iPad Pro ranges from, Microsoft Office tasks, like working with Excel, and Microsoft Word, and Microsoft PowerPoint files, all the way over to LumaFusion, right? When I edit videos for the YouTube channel in 4K, in 30 FPS, I use LumaFusion as my main video editor of choice. Affinity Photo is what I use on there to actually edit my thumbnails for these videos. I even use voice memos from time to time. I use Notes a ton for both sides, on the creative side and the business professional side. So overall, my iPad Pro is my all-in-one workhorse. And the way that I carry it around is iPad, Paperlike screen protector on the front, Pitaka thin case on the back, on the Magic Keyboard, and then Apple Pencil 2 right on top. So overall, that's my iPad Pro setup. And if you guys really think about it, this exact setup with the screen protector, with the actual Pitaka case, it's going to end up being pretty expensive. So it's $1,100 for the iPad, $350 for the Magic Keyboard, $60 for the Pitaka case, $40 for the actual Paperlike, and then another $130 for the Apple Pencil. So you're probably spending almost $1,700 on a laptop replacement, and that is the iPad Pro. But again, for me personally, I have zero regrets. So if we continue in the order of most used, the next one has to be the iPhone. And this one probably is number one because I do use my iPhone a lot, but I think the most important one for me is the iPad Pro. But my iPhone is my end-all be-all when it comes to pretty much everything. So I currently rock the iPhone 13 Pro Max. I have it in the 256 gigabyte variant, and I'm rocking that space gray, graphite, black, whatever color they're calling it nowadays. That is what I use as my main camera for the YouTube channel for both videography and photography. I do not carry a point and shoot. I do not have a DSLR. There's nothing other than those 3 cameras on the back of the iPhone 13 Pro Max that I'm using for this channel. So keep that in mind. If you're someone who's trying to start a YouTube channel and thinks they need the latest and greatest, just take a look at my channel and you'll see that every single video, dating back to the very first few, which I was actually using an iPhone 10 at that point, is all done with the iPhone. So as long as you have some decent lighting, good lighting, if you have some good audio equipment right here, something to make sure that your audio comes through correctly, then you're gonna be good to go. But my iPhone is used just like most people's iPhones, right? Use it for email, use it for phone calls, use it to use iMessage. I use it, again, to record everything from the YouTube channel, and then also record things that are going on in my life, because I love Apple's memory photo situation where they kind of put little collages and slideshows together. I love that feature. It gets me a little bit nostalgic every time Apple shows me a new one. But then other than that, I use it for social media. I'm big on Twitter. I watch a lot of content on YouTube, watch some YouTube TV. I use it to watch football every now and then. So my iPhone I use for pretty much everything that you could think of. I even use it in my car with Apple CarPlay, which is one of my favorite things to do. I don't know, I feel absolutely lost if I don't have my CarPlay on. I feel like I watch Google Maps on Apple CarPlay more so than I'm looking at the road. I trust Google Maps more than I trust the road in front of me, which is probably not a good thing, but again, and that is my second, maybe my first most used Apple product that I have right now. And one thing that I did like about the iPhone 13 Pro Max is MagSafe. So I know that MagSafe came to the iPhone 12s last year, but since I personally skipped it, MagSafe is kind of like a whole new ecosystem for me that I'm learning to use and enjoying using currently, with especially my Satechi charger back there. But that is my iPhone 13 Pro Max. And another reason why I kind of went with the 13 Pro Max over any of the other iPhones, I wanted to go with the pros no matter what for the 3 lenses, because I want to take advantage of as much as I can when it comes to that. But then also the battery life, guys. The battery life on the iPhone 13 Pro Max is unreal. I've never had to charge it. Sometimes I forget to charge it overnight. Sometimes the wireless charger doesn't kind of fit correctly and it doesn't charge overnight, and I'm still fine the next day, no worries at all. So overall, if you need a phone that's going to last you over a day with heavy use, keep in mind, I'm recording in 4K and I'm doing that pretty much on a daily basis. With heavy use, you should look for the iPhone 13 Pro Max. But all the other iPhones have pretty good battery life as well. So now let's talk about the computer that I have behind me. So back there is my M1 MacBook Air from 2020. It's connected to my BenQ monitor, a 32-inch one, which is absolutely pristine. I love that monitor, but I, again, have the baseline M1 MacBook Air. And when Apple released these M1 chips, it was crazy. So keep in mind, I was coming from a 2019 i7 MacBook Air that I think was around $1,500. I spec'd it up a little bit, some extra RAM, some extra hard drive space in there, or SSD space, and that thing could not handle anything. And when I mean it couldn't handle anything, but if you weren't running a native Apple application, that MacBook Air would absolutely crash. It stunk with Chrome, it stunk with Microsoft Office, it was just terrible. So when Apple released the M1 MacBook Airs, I traded that one in to get the baseline model because I was watching all these people's videos of how strong the M1 MacBook Air was. And oh my goodness, this thing is absolutely unreal. Like the M1 chip in any of these products is going to give you the most efficient and power ready or task ready kind of efficiency than you're going to see pretty much anywhere else. Like things like Microsoft Office Suite open instantaneously, all the Google suite of applications, Apple suite of applications, anything that you throw at it. And again, I have the baseline model one, so I only have 256 gigs of storage and 8 gigabytes of RAM. Sometimes my Clean My Mac X little plugin shows up that says, hey, do you want to clear up some RAM? But even when that situation pops up, there's no like slowdown. There's no slowdown in everything that I'm doing. I just kind of clear out a little bit of RAM and I'm good to go. I do wish that I went with 16 gigs of RAM, but for what I use it for, and my use case for the MacBook Air is a little bit different. Like most people get the iPad to supplement their MacBook experience, but I got the MacBook Air to supplement my iPad Pro experience because there are that 1% of tasks like having multiple PowerPoints open, having huge databases where I need a real kind of secondary monitor support to see everything in my database in an Excel file. That is the only time I migrate over to the MacBook Air. When I have like 7 PowerPoints open, I'm manipulating data from an Excel sheet that needs to go into that PowerPoint. It's just a little bit easier with the secondary monitor support, the real secondary monitor support. So that is how I use my MacBook Air. And the reason I say that I wish I went with 16 gigs of RAM, and that's what I'm going to recommend for most people, there's only been one situation where it doesn't really break the operating system or anything like that. It kind of just slows it down a tad bit. And it's when I open Excel files and Excel databases with over 100,000 lines, right? I've been dealing with those kind of Excel databases for a little while now, especially recently. And every single time I open it up, it does take a little while to open. And every time I make an edit in there, it does take a little while to edit. But if you're just dealing with basic Excel stuff with 1,000 lines, maybe 10,000 lines, literally don't worry about it. All you need is 8 gigs of RAM. And this is my recommendation for pretty much anybody getting into the Apple ecosystem, for any student, for anybody that needs a professional device, anybody that needs a creative device. I'm going to throw people this way just because of the actual price to performance ratio on there. Like I love my iPad Pro and I'm going to go to my iPad Pro every single time before the MacBook Air. But if I had to choose one of them and I was restricted on price, you're going to have to go with the MacBook Air just from a price to performance ratio. Absolutely love it. And again, stick around because I'm going to show you guys how to save some money on brand new Apple products. So the next product that I use that I've had since day one of release, which I think was November 2019. It's kind of crazy that these have been out for almost 2 years now. But it's got to be the AirPods Pro. They are the best noise canceling headphones that I have tried that aren't over-ear headphones. Like you just put them in, and if you're in a busy city like New York or Chicago or San Francisco and you're in the subway system and things like that, it's amazing how such little devices can drown out all the noise around you. Like it's absolutely insane. So the actual noise cancellation on the AirPods Pro, that alone makes it worth it. But now you have things like spatial audio, which is not exclusive to the AirPods Pro. Now you can get them on AirPods 3. But spatial audio coming in is an amazing thing. Dolby Atmos, another amazing feature. And these are all things that came after the fact. So again, Apple's just improving their products even after you purchase them. So that's a beautiful thing to see. Battery life has actually held on very, very strong, which is something that a lot of people with regular AirPods complain about. After about 2 years, even my wife, she has the original AirPods from 2016. The battery on those, they don't last for more than half an hour. Versus my AirPods Pro, even 2 years later, I can sit there for 4 hours on 4 hours of straight phone calls and video chats and be totally fine with my AirPods Pro. I very rarely use transparency mode because I don't know, I feel like it gives me almost too much. It's almost like sensor overload with transparency mode. But overall, regular listening and then active noise cancellation, absolutely pristine. And also, Amazon also has some great deals on them. So if you guys do want to check it out, if you guys are okay going through Amazon for this specific Apple product, I recommend going through Amazon because I think they're like $170 on Amazon right now. And then the last Apple product, which probably would be in the category of most used, you just kind of forget about it when it's on, and it's the Apple Watch. So my Apple Watch, I have the Series 5, the 44mm, the regular aluminum one, no cellular data on there, just a regular Series 5 watch. And I was actually upgrading from the original Series 0, so not even the Series 1. When the original Series 0 came out, I got that one, and then upgrading to a 6-year newer device was absolutely amazing. Because Apple Watches, they aren't really something that I upgrade every single year. I just don't find a need to because I use it mostly as a notification watch, as a fitness watch, and then my main use for my Apple Watch is actually as a viewfinder for my iPhone. So I can kind of get an idea of what I'm actually looking at and how I'm framed inside the image. I mean, it's not huge, obviously, but I like to see that at least I'm in the middle of the image, in the middle of the video, and that's what I use it for most. Like that is an every single day use, and then obviously to tell the time. But that is my Apple Watch Series 5, and again, if you're looking for an Apple Watch, I actually recommend the SE. Like, go get yourself the Apple Watch SE. Apple Watch Series 3 is a little too old. I don't know why Apple still carries it, but the SE is a perfect kind of middle ground. And then again, if you really want to shell out the $400, $450, go get yourself a Series 7, but I'm probably going to hold off until at least the 8, probably even the 9. The only time I'm going to think about maybe upgrading is when the viewfinder starts to get a little laggy, because I used to use the viewfinder on the Series 0, and after a while, that one, it just couldn't really handle it anymore, to be totally honest. But those are my main devices. So now what I want to do is actually put up a screen share and show you guys exactly what this all is going to be priced out to be, right? So we're going to go normal retail through the Apple Store. So we have the $1,000 MacBook Air, still sells amazingly, still from 2020, absolutely love that computer. We have the $1,100 M1 iPad Pro, then we have the Magic Keyboard case for $350, then we have the Apple Pencil for $130, then we have the AirPods Pro for $250 on the actual website, then we have, I guess we'll go with the SE because it's the most comparable to the Series 5. So we're going to get that one for I think $330 is a 44mm version. And then finally, to tally it all up, let's see exactly what that number is. I'm going to put it up right here. But now what I did want to show everybody before I ended this video, and if you guys made it to the end, this is probably the most important part if you guys want to save some money even after Black Friday. Go through the education store. So Apple doesn't actually show this off. If you scroll all the way to the bottom, some people have told me that this only works for the US and the UK, but definitely double check in your area to see if it does work. It's worth a shot. But you scroll all the way to the bottom, click on the education store. Then you're brought to a store where everything is discounted, at least every computing device. So all iPads, all MacBooks, even Apple TVs, accessories not really. Apple Watches I don't think are in there, or headphones aren't in there. But for, let's say, the MacBook Air, you can save $100. For the M1 iPad Pro, you can save another $100. For the new MacBook Pros, the M1 Pro and the M1 Max, you can save up to $150. For the Pro Display XDR, you can save $500. So this is all Apple's education store, and you need zero verification. You don't need a .edu email. You don't need to prove that you're a professor or a teacher or part of a school faculty, anything like that. You just order it online, and it gets delivered to your house in brand new Apple packaging. And you can even still do a trade-in through the Apple Education Store and save that $100. So if you have an old Apple product you want to trade in to kind of help subsidize the cost, then take another $100 off of that. And then the ultimate cheat code is to get an Apple Card, and then you can finance that with 0% across 12 months, or 6 to 12 months depending on how expensive the object is or the product. But that is pretty much going to do for this video. So hopefully you guys got an understanding. You see that I'm kind of in that entire spectrum, right? I use all my Apple devices for creative stuff. I also use it for a lot of business professional stuff. So I like to think that I'm like a perfect little middle ground to show that it can all be done with the products that you have around you. But that's going to do for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. I'm going to link everything down below. Go ahead, use the education store, save some money, and leave some comments down below. What Apple products do you have? Are you in the ecosystem? Are you deeply in there? Are you somebody that's totally out of it but thinking about going in? Or are you kind of broken? Like, do you have a MacBook Air and then like a Google Pixel 6? Or vice versa? Do you have maybe some sort of Samsung or Windows computer and use an iPhone with that? Always curious to know what your setups are. And then maybe take a picture of your setup and tag me on Twitter. I'd love to kind of see exactly what you guys going on. But don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. That's gonna do it for this one. I'm out of here.